So if you're into game development, chances are you already know how hard it is to actually make a game. It's one of the one of the hardest things I've ever embarked on is making a game because you need to know how to program, how to build something, which is a beast itself. You need to be able to produce art or source art. Then there's the music, there's the game feel, and then there's like these are all individually very difficult skill sets, and then you need to actually bind them all together to create basically one piece of art. So it's a very difficult process, but if you can learn to love it, it's easy and difficult at the same time, and that's like one part of the puzzle. If you want to get people to play it, you need to be able to market it. You need to know how to market the game, and then you also need to be brave enough to actually publish something somewhere. And there's itch.io, but I think we all know as game developers or as game enjoyers that the main marketplace you want to get on is Steam. And that's the part where I've always fallen short. If you're a if you're a game developer or you are interested in becoming a game developer, chances are you're a very analytical person. You like taking calculated risks and you maybe think a little bit too much. That's definitely my weakness is I think too much and sometimes I think more than I should, which then results in me planning out the best route forward to achieving a goal instead of actually just doing it. And it's like a blessing and a curse at the same times because you get to the point where thinking just becomes not important anymore if you're not actually taking the steps to doing something. And that's what's held me back in my game development journey for at least the last 5 years. And I've been doing this for 10 now. And that's what I set out this year to address, was to address that insecurity of taking the final step, getting a game onto Steam and publishing it. So I started working on a new game on January 1st, 2025, and the goal was to get it ready for the Steam Next Fest in April 2025. So I had like just under 4 months really to plan it out, develop it, get it looking and feeling like an actual game, and obviously like bug test it, set up a Steam page, everything. I thought I could do it, and I was trying to take the kind of sock pop collective approach, which I think is a really good approach, especially for developers like me who are looking to get that monkey off their back of producing and publishing a game onto Steam and not really giving a shit about how many copies it sells or how many people download it if it's free, but just getting something out there, which is the important first step for indie game developers, especially solo developers, to take, in my opinion, is to get a couple of games out there. Of course, do it in itch.io first, but there comes a point where you then need to do it in Steam, which is a totally different beast. There's so many more. There's so much more thought and planning that has to go into that because Steam just requires so much more to publish on it. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to get something out there, and um, 3 4 months, was it realistic? Could it be done? It probably could have been done, but it got to the point where developing this game, I started to believe in the vision. Um, I started to think there might actually be something here, and it got to like March when I had a prototype built, and I was thinking I could rush this out in the next month, and it might get people playing it. It's going to be very rough anyway. It's not going to be polished. There's going to be bugs. Is that going to hamper me more in the long term? And I was basically having to balance out, could I invest more time, get it out at a later date, and have this vision realised, or is it just about getting something out there that I don't really give a shit what the outcome is? The desired outcome for me is just getting something published on Steam. And I went for the first option, I went for holding back. And you could say I'm falling back into that old trap of overthinking, over planning, and not actually pushing through and getting something out there. But I set the goal of the October Steam Next Fest, which, if I don't achieve that, is falling back into that old trap because that's plenty of time to get something out there. But I'm very confident in my ability to publish this game, get it out there for October. Um, but this is the this is the trap we can fall into as game developers, is overthinking and not being brave enough to, because your game can become a part of yourself. It can become, don't want to say your child, but when you put yourself and your passion and your thought into a creative project like this, it's kind of like exposing a part of yourself to the world. And when it comes to the point of actually pushing through and pressing the publish button and doing it, sometimes that feels like the heaviest part of the whole development process, because all of a sudden, if you don't learn to detach, every bit of criticism that it gets can be a criticism of you as a person if you're not careful. Um, there's actually a really good book I'm reading about, funnily enough, which is right on my desk, called The Four Agreements. And I've read it a couple of times and I just skim read it every day now. And it's all about kind of detaching and not taking things. Well, one of the agreements out of the four is about detaching, not taking things personally. So it's good to just remind myself of that. And it might be worth doing if you're into game development. So I missed my April deadline. I've got an October deadline. And that's kind of what makes game development so hard, is like managing yourself, keeping yourself focused, staying accountable. And even if you're good at keeping yourself accountable, like I am, you can still. Sometimes it's not about being accountable and putting the work in, but it's about being accountable to yourself and putting the work in the right areas, and kind of learning to look at your game as a product impartially instead of it being your project. You know, you need to be able to switch in and out of a couple of lenses. I think it's still good to look at your game as your project, because you can look at it and you can say, "Oh wow, I made this," and reward yourself for that. But at the same time, you need to look at it as a product through the lens of somebody who might want to buy it, and look at it impartially. And then you can see the flaws for what they are and correct them, because you want to see the flaws, you want to see where it's shite, you want to see where it can be improved, because then you can improve it and you can make it into something worthy. And I think that's quite, would you say, quite a sort of quite a reassuring point, is that if you're open to seeing the flaws and the negatives with the game that you're developing, then you've always got a way to correct them. And if not for this project, then for a future project, you've got a way to improve. And I think that's kind of like something that when you can realise what you've done wrong and what you could have done better, and kind of separating your ego and being open to criticism like that, and kind of separating yourself, detaching yourself, you can improve it for the future, and you're kind of onto a winner there. So, in terms of what I'm working on today, I'm going to be working on replacing the art. I've got a deadline in a few days. You can't read it, but just trust me. I need to basically, by the 29th, and today is the 23rd, I need to replace all the placeholder art, in which there is a lot out of the game, which I can show you. And I can't be asked switching to record my monitor, so you're just going to need to deal with the shaky hand camera. But this is how the game is looking with my new pixel art style. I'll maybe at some point show what it used to look like with the vector style, but this week has been basically replacing the vector style with this pixel art style, because my art skills are just not cut for producing vector graphics en masse. It just takes far too long for me. So the pixel art style works. So we've got the loot on the right hand side, the inventory, and then the equipment here that you can equip, and then all your stats here on the left. And you can press the loot button, get a fresh bit of loot. These are still some of the old art assets that I'll need to replace with pixel art. And then you can equip this shit, and you can do, we'll put something powerful on. There's this bow. We can do battle, start fighting. There we go. We're on to a winner. And then this map needs this map needs replaced as well. Holy shit. So that'll be today's tasks. Just basically replacing those assets with the new pixel art style. And as I do them, I'll just check in here. You can see the progress. You can hold me accountable. You can see if I screw it up or if I get there. There's a few things I've got written down as well in my wee Trello board, so let's have a look at that. Arrows for bows, blood effects, spell effects, and item icons. Those are all in the game right now, apart from spell effects. So as long as I can get the assets either sourced or created in the pixel art style, it should just be like a one-for-one swapping out with the new style from the old ones. The only one I need to do is spell effects, and I've got that pixel art. What do you call it? There's a pixel art. What do you call it? Oh, come on, forget the word. But particle effect creator on Steam that I've got. I'll maybe use that. I don't know how well it's going to fit in. It might look crappy. Might not fit the style because I've obviously got those black thick borders around the character sprites. So we'll have a look, we'll play around, probably do the spell effect last, and I'll do all the other replacements first, because they're just a one-for-one spell effect. I need to come up with something new. So let's get cracking. So now I need my icons, and who would actually develop icons when you can just swipe? So I decided to swipe. I got all these icons, and I think it was like £30 or something. So I might make some slight alterations to them, but that's going to do me amazing. So wee plug for them: Raven Fantasy Icons Full Collection. That's the one that I went for. They look really really good quality. I think they're more for JRPGs, but we can make them fit. Well, it's been a bit of a day, but we are getting there because I've got the map now. Nice way, this wee background. A lot of footering about to get the scrolling working properly, because, I mean, some of the code I'd written on this map a few months ago is just pretty shocking, to be honest. So I corrected a lot of that, and I've still got the old sprites. So the last thing that I'm going to do today is replace those sprites with something from my icon pack that I got. Those other sprites are looking really good, so I'm going to take a wee breather now because the dog is in the toilet. So get her out, and then when I get back, I'll switch out the last of the icons. Anybody who decides to watch this might be thinking it's not a great deal of progress. However, a couple of days ago, this full game used vector graphics, and I've just started replacing it with these pixel art graphics. So today, what we did was we added these new icons down here. They're a wee bit hard to see, but these new item icons, and then if we add a new bit of loot, we can see the new icons being used for all the items. Then next, I suppose, if we put some of this overpowered stuff on, try and get really overpowered so that I can skip on a wee bit to some of the other features of the game. Let's just do that and see what happens. So then if I click battle, we'll see the new arrow effect that you've seen there added today, and then there'll be the new blood particles as well. And then if I kill this wee monster, yep, here's the new map. So this took up the full screen before, but now we've got this nice wee kind of pixely map, like kind of parchment paper, and then obviously we've got the new icons, so we can just skip through here all we want. Obviously we need to unlock these parts first, so let's go to the shop, see if it still works. seems to still work. So I don't have any money, so I just need to leave. And then we can go and we can heal, and that needs a wee bit of work anyway. But anyway, that is kind of that. That's what I've done today. The one thing that I haven't done is adding spell effects for this mage character. So that will be something for tomorrow, amongst other things, which I'll plan out in the morning. I don't have a whole lot of time just because I'm travelling next Friday. So I kind of need to spend tomorrow getting ready for that. So I know I've not as much game dev time, but as we know, there's always time for a wee bit of game dev. So that is that.